Good morning, Alta Realty Group agents. This is Kevin Lauren. I'm the Director of Training and Marketing here. And today we're going to be going through our pre-listing packet. And it's something that I think a lot of agents could benefit from. I'm sure a lot of agents are using a variation of this, but we want to go through some best practices, of course. We are also joined by Bill Seitz. Good morning, Bill. How are you today?
Great, Kevin. Good morning.
Good morning. All right, and we also have our corporate broker, Travis Breton, on the line. Travis, good morning to you. Good morning, Travis.
How you doing? Can you hear me now?
I'm good. I just had to unmute you.
Oh, okay.
Good morning, Travis.
Good morning.
All right, and so Travis will have some really good insight on today's presentation. But before we get into that, we do want to have Bill give us a little overview. He promised us last week that he would go through the FHA highlights. And so, Bill, I've got your FHA graphic up on our screen, so take it away, my friend.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Kevin. I just real quick wanted to mention a couple new agents that I believe are on the webinar this morning. It's always nice to have some of our new ARG agents and new family on the call or on the webinar, and that's Chris Perez and Melanie Barnes. So thank you guys for attending, and I hope that you guys find these webinars useful and helpful for your business. I think that we do cover some really good information, and if you can just walk away with even a couple things every week, I think that it's going to build and constantly build on your business. So
yeah, and then also, Bill, we do also have a new agent. He's been with us for about 2 weeks, I think, Bruce Ballinger. So welcome, Bruce.
Awesome. Yeah, welcome, Bruce. Great. Real quick, Kev, before I do the FHA highlights, I want to just if you can, if it's not too much of a trouble, I just want to go over the just the 10-year Treasury real quick.
For sure. Let me
that's
pull that graphic up for you. Here you go.
Okay, so we just, this is kind of something that I've been doing every week. I just think it's kind of, at this point, something we can spend 30 seconds on every week just to see where interest rates are trending.
Yeah.
And over the last month, they've come up about 20 basis points, maybe a click less now, but it looks like it's down 2 basis points this morning. It's on the 10-year. So pretty flat as far as what we saw last week. So that's kind of good news for rates not increasing any further.
Yeah.
But overall, very good as far as the stability in the mortgage department. So good stuff there. Kevin, we'll roll back into the FHA overview highlights. And as I promised everyone last week, that I just thought I would spend a few minutes talking about FHA loans. Many of you that are already kind of seasoned agents that have been in the business for a while are very familiar with FHA loans. A lot of your first-time home buyers and people that are considering getting into real estate utilize FHA for a number of reasons, and we'll just run through it. I'm not going to get too in detail, but at least we can just talk really quickly about some highlights before Kevin does his presentation. So what is an FHA loan? FHA loan is basically, it's backed by the Federal Housing Authority. And it's basically insurance. It's insurance against any kind of default on the property. And people are basically allowed to buy 1 to 4 units with an FHA loan, which I think is a really good opportunity. And if I could go back in time, pre-marriage, pre-kids, and knowing what I know now, I would have bought a 4-plex and lived in one of the units and rented the 3 out, and I would be a much happier person today with my real estate portfolio.
Yes.
But most people don't realize that you can actually buy a 4-unit property with an FHA loan. Of course, you have to live in the property, but I mean, what an incredible way to get an investment property straight out of the gates and have other people help pay for that property.
Seriously, Bill, we didn't have our crystal ball, unfortunately, but wow,
no,
that would have been nice.
a financial education goes a long way, but if you don't get it to your 30s, it can be a little bit of a detriment. But,
well, and unfortunately, you don't get it in college.
No, that should be mandatory for all of us and all of our kids in high school and stuff. But that's another topic.
That's a different soapbox, right?
Yeah, exactly. One thing to also note is that and I'll talk about this in just a second, the loan limits for if you have a 2-unit, 3-unit, 4-unit, those loan limits actually change per county. So each county has its own separate, if you're in a high cost of living county, or you're just in a kind of a, I'll call it just a normal county for lack of a better word, there's different limits. Just as conventional has its own loan limits, so does FHA. So that's just important to note. And if you have any questions on the stuff, you guys can certainly reach out to me, and I can look up where you're at, and we can identify that together. Another really good highlight is less stringent credit requirements. So as most of you know, a conventional loan obviously has a higher requirement, loan to value, and also credit score for qualifying. FHA loans, some lenders will go down into the mid to high fives. And I'm actually working on an investor now that Bruce Dott, one of our loan officers over at Clearview, had recommended to me. So I'm actually staring at the investor package now, and I actually got to start on it yesterday. So I will probably bring those highlights to everybody in the next week or so as I get that closer to being an investor that we can work with. But that I think that will be a big resource for everybody as far as having opportunity to work with some of our credit challenged clientele out there. Sometimes there's just things on there that drag our credit score down that, we still want to be able to help these people if maybe they make good money. Maybe they have a steady job. Maybe things are stable, but they just have some negative things on their credit report that can't be resolved immediately. Low down payment, of course, generally 3.5%, unless you're going into one of these, assisted down payment programs. Some of the cities actually will help with that, but for all intents and purposes, 3.5% down for an FHA loan.
That's great.
Yeah, of course. You can utilize gift funds and seller contributions for down payment and closing costs. So that's a great, gift funds are awesome. Sometimes, parents helping their child in, brother, sister, it's very easy to utilize gift funds, and the seller can also make a contribution towards closing costs, up to 6%. So that's great. And another highlight is larger debt to income ratios. So traditional conventional loan front end ratio, usually the guideline is about 43%. So front end ratio is your housing expenses. So just your housing expense. FHA goes up to 45%. And the back end ratios are also more lenient as well. Back end ratios, all your debts, housing debt included, all combined. So that's your bigger of the two ratios. So they're a little bit more lenient there, which is awesome. And lastly, purchasing after a bankruptcy. This is a great opportunity for people who may have had some, issue that they just had to kind of resolve and sort through it, and they're getting their life back together, and, they have an opportunity to buy a home, and we can usually help them under bankruptcy, but it's also case by case. So that would be something you would want to reach out to us on. Real quick, loan limits. I mentioned that loan limits are different for every county. High cost of living counties like Orange County, San Diego County, Bay Area counties, and LA County obviously have a lot higher loan limits for FHA loans. So if you have questions about that, please reach out to us. Another thing is important. These FHA appraisers, they do have to make sure the home is not run down. It's not dilapidated. You got to have appliances in. You got to have the usually the utilities working. You cannot have a house that's in bad shape. An FHA loan will not work there. So just be mindful. If you have a listing that's maybe a little bit beat up, or it's more of a fixer type thing, you're probably not going to be able to use FHA financing unless the seller fixes some of the things that are going to be noted. So just be mindful of that. And this is another big one. Don't go showing property to condominiums unless you know, if you're using an FHA loan, that the condo community is approved. These associations have to be approved through FHA for them to get financing in those communities. So I don't want to see anyone spend their time or waste their time with buyers who ultimately get they get disappointed when, oh yeah, we're going to put an offer in, we're ready to go, and everyone's happy, the agent's happy, the client's happy, and then you find out that just by doing a little research, you would have known. If you had known, you wouldn't have put your client in that situation. Now they're upset because now they can't put their offer in. It's not going to get accepted, and now you're starting from scratch. So that's usually not a good situation. So just be mindful of that.
And Bill, real quick, how do you find out if a condominium is approved?
You can look it up. I believe it's through FHA Connection. It's online.
Okay.
And if you're not familiar with that, just you can reach out to us. We'll look it up for you. It takes 2 seconds for us because we do it frequently.
Right.
But it's a pretty easy process once you're used to it. So,
short answer, call Bill.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So that's all I have as the highlights. There's other little things about mortgage insurance and stuff that I don't want to start doing math equations for everyone, but there's a couple things that we need to, remember there that we can talk about further if you guys have clientele that are looking to utilize these programs. And lastly, Kevin, before you get into your listing information, I just want to remind everyone who's doing OpCity leads, please make sure that you do your updates, your weekly updates, just so they stay current and we don't have any issues with going. Because then I get a million emails saying that someone didn't update their leads. So if you're using the program, please just be mindful there. And that's all I have, Kevin.
Once a week is all it takes.
Yeah. So thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Bill. Appreciate that. And so we're going to get into the meat of our presentation today. And so today we're going to be talking about the pre-listing packet. And so it's, when we get a listing and we get a listing presentation, we got to be completely prepared for these listing presentations. And so on Monday, I sent out a really good excerpt from an article from Inman. And it had 3 different, I hope all of you guys got a chance to read it because it's a really good one. And it just had 3 different examples of, agents and how they came into their listing appointment and what their presentation was. So, and it was a really good one because it just, it kind of highlighted, problems and, ways that we can really improve our services and not make those mistakes. So please go back and read that. I sent it out on Monday. Every pre-listing packet, when you go into this meeting and you got the appointment, they're like, all right, show me your stuff. How are you going to sell my house? You got to be on top of your game 100%. And so one of the things that your pre-listing packet should include is a couple of testimonials of people that you've worked with and you sold their house. If you don't have any of those and you just have buyer testimonials, that's good enough, or that's better than nothing. So make sure that you have printed up in your little packet that you're going to hand this person some testimonials of other people you've worked with. Travis, I know that you know that this is such an important part of proving that you are going to be the one for them, right?
It definitely is. And, if you can back it up with, maybe some online ones as well, or at least show the ones that you have online. And for the new agents out there that have not sold a home yet, or maybe it's been a while, you can always get character testimonials from your friends and family, talking about what a great person you are.
Right.
And, use those as well to at least get started with testimonials.
For sure. And so, just having some kind of verification that you're a great guy or you're a great woman, is a really good idea because people want to know. They want to know. It's human nature to want to, see if other people had a good experience with you. And in this day and age, people expect it. In the last, maybe 10 years ago, it wasn't as prevalent. It was certainly part of business, but today with Yelp and with TripAdvisor and all these social media outlets where you can rate businesses, it is almost mandatory, and people really, really are. Especially millennials, they are geared for it. They're groomed for it. So you got to have your testimonials for sure. And that goes for your website too. Make sure that your website is populated with some great testimonials, and always ask for a testimonial. And you're actually asking for client feedback. When you're asking for a quote unquote testimonial, you really just use the word feedback. Hey, I'd like to get some feedback on how our transaction went. What you're really asking for is a testimonial. And then when you get it back and you're using those in your marketing, they're testimonials, but you're collecting feedback. So really, really good practice to make sure that you're, as part of your selling process, is when the sale is complete, you ask for feedback. Absolutely. And then we use that in our marketing. So the second thing that you're going to need, and it's almost goes without saying, is a complete marketing plan. How are you going to sell this property? And so, we go into all of the agents that are with us have a flip show, or they have a a listing presentation that's online. So let's just take a look at that. And so our agents are able to go into that appointment and tell them exactly what our plan is. And so we can go through, and I really want to see all of you customize these 100% to exactly your business and how you sell the home. So, you can go through, we build the websites for you, we do online commercials, we, create a video and panoramic tours. So you want to be able to give them a complete marketing plan on how you are going to push this information out and get this thing out. And of course, you're going to talk about the Facebook advertising that you're going to do, and the broker opens and open houses and all of those different things. But it's got to be laid out, and the seller has to understand exactly what your plan is to sell that property. Right, Travis?
Yeah, they definitely want to see that you have a very laid out plan of how they're going to get their home sold, get it sold for top dollar. They want to know that you have a plan to do this. And it may not be the same plan for every house, so you have to be prepared for that, because some homes require some different things. But, your general plan should be laid out well for them so they can understand it.
Yeah, so if it's a higher end property, you're going to be talking about, the professional photographer that you're going to bring in. You're going to be talking about maybe the drone videographer that's going to be coming in. If we're talking about $1 million plus home, the sellers expect this at this point. So you got to come in and say, this is exactly what we're doing. And this is, you could even, you don't have to say what your actual dollar budget is, but you want to be able to explain exactly how you're going to get that property out into the marketplace. So really, really key. And, I can definitely work with you guys one-on-one on creating a good marketing plan for individual properties. The third thing that you're going to want is market statistics. So you're going to want to be able to be armed with data about what's going on in their particular market. So you got to be able to provide that seller with really, really detailed information on their neighborhood. You don't have to go into too much detail, because this is still the preliminary deal. You haven't got the listing yet, but you want to be able to provide enough information to wet their whistle and to get their information, to perk their interest in what you're going to be able to provide for them. Great idea is to provide a CMA. I've got a CMA somewhere here. So here's a CMA. There's a lot of different ways to prepare CMAs, and that's actually going to be one of our next webinar topics, is preparing CMAs, different ways to prepare CMAs. But you want to have a full overview of exactly what's going on in that particular neighborhood. Right, Travis?
Yeah, definitely.
I mean,
so and a lot of the, if you're with CRMLS or some of the other MLSs are providing free access to like Cloud CMA now and stuff, and it produces a really nice CMA that you can also pull up on a device if you're using a tablet or something for your presentation. Yeah,
so next week we're actually not going to have a webinar, but the following week we're going to have a webinar all on CMAs, how to create them, and I will be going through how to access Cloud CMA through CRMLS. So that'll be a good webinar as well. So, very important, provide a very, very comprehensive CMA, comparative market analysis, and that way they understand what's happening in their particular market. So really, really important. And I know, guys, this is, a lot of this stuff is just real estate sales 101, but it's so good to go through this stuff and to get our brain thinking the right way. So another thing that's really, really good, and this is something that I think most real estate agents don't do, is you're going to want to arm your seller with questions every seller should ask their real estate agent. So you want to help your sellers out, because they're not in the business of selling homes. They may not know the correct questions to ask a real estate agent. And you also know that you're probably not the only agent that is meeting with these people. So you want to arm them with some good kind of loaded questions that they can ask the other agents that are looking to get the appointment. Right, Travis?
Yeah, definitely. Help them out with the questions, and take it upon yourself to kind of answer them without them asking sometimes too.
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes they're afraid to ask things like, what do you think about the couch being right here, or is there too much clutter in this room? But they do want that kind of advice because they are trying to get, the highest amount for their house. So help them out with some of that stuff, especially the staging questions.
Oh, big time. That's a huge one. And in that article excerpt that I sent out on Monday, they talk quite a bit about that. And that was one of the big things that that was a big takeaway for me on that was some of those agents, 2 of the 3 agents, were not prepared at all to give any kind of staging advice, which was horrible. And then the 3rd agent who won the listing actually had a whole bunch of staging stuff to bring over. And so as part of the second part of their presentation, they brought in a bunch of cool things to augment the house. For instance, the mantle was bare, and she said, "Oh no, we need to put a few things on the mantle." So she actually owned some staging items. Super cool, right?
Yeah, that's going above and beyond, definitely. So,
right?
like, hey, she won the listing, so
Hey, those are the kinds of things that help us win listings. So not a bad idea. And then the other thing is, if you don't know anything about staging and you're just bad at that, because I am, get in touch with an expert that knows staging. Make a connection with another agent that's good at staging, and make that part of at least some part of your presentation. And you may not even be the expert on it, but if you can offer a few bits of advice, you're going to be ahead of the curve, right?
definitely.
Yeah, so really, really important. Again, please read that little article from Inman. It was great. So then the 5th thing that you need is the listing paperwork filled out already. Don't take up everybody's time, and don't assume that these guys know what the heck they're doing. They've never seen this. A lot of sellers have never seen a listing agreement before. So make sure that it is filled out before you get there as much as possible, and provide copies of everything that the seller needs to sign. That way they know exactly, they're going to not have as many questions. They're going to know exactly what is expected of them. So really, really important to have that. And of course, the only thing that you're not going to have on there is the listing price. So
I always bring the listing paperwork with me. I mean, even if it's just hey, can you pop by and take a look at my house because we're thinking about trying to sell it. I mean, I come with comps. I come with the whole shebang on every single listing appointment, because my goal, even if it's just to, chat in quotes, is to leave with some sort of signed contract or something. So
yeah.
I don't leave it up to, hey, I use DocuSign, I'll send it over to you. Like I want to leave with a contract.
Definitely. I mean, you spent the time to prepare this pre-listing packet, to prepare yourself for this meeting. You want to make sure that you're using your time the most effective way. Leave with a contract.
Yeah, I don't want to give them any chance to change their mind.
No.
Waiting for a DocuSign package to come over to them. So.
No. And then the last thing that you want to do, which I think is a really good one as well, is to provide that seller with some seller homework. So you've given them the listing agreements, property disclosure forms, all that stuff, but then also provide them with some stuff that they need to go through. Provide them with a list. So, you're going to want to let them know, hey, you're going to be thinking about staging. You're going to be thinking about fixing some of these little things that we talked about, perhaps trimming the hedges and letting some light in on some of the trees on the front. So you're going to give them some homework as well, right, Travis?
Yep. Yeah, definitely. And again, they want to know this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Don't assume that you're going to insult them. They want to know, should I plant 4 little flowers in the flower bed out front? Yeah, you probably should. It's going to cost you $10,
Exactly. So I mean, those little things. And so these are just literally 6 elements that you should be thinking about every time you create a pre-listing packet. And so your pre-listing packet should change for every property that you sell. They're not all the same. So just use this as a guide to create your own pre-listing packet. And once you have your kind of your formula and your outline, it's a lot easier for you. So then you're like, okay, I'm knocking off I'm checking off my boxes, right? And so next time I go into my pre-listing, I go into my, I'm thinking about going to my next listing presentation. I already know what the heck to do. And then, as you do this more and more, it just becomes natural. It's a really easy step to follow. Bill, I know you've been listening. Do you have any takeaways from the presentation today?
I'm taking my notes, buddy. You know what? Most of you may or may not know my background. I was an agent for a long time, and even spent quite a bit of time in the high-end market here in Newport Beach. Used to do open house every weekend. I used to do high-end homes. Was sitting on Lindsay Davenport's home at one point, trying to sell a $7 million home. Unfortunately, never got the sale. But the staging topic is really, it means a lot, because the different price points have different needs for staging. And obviously, when you get into the high-end market, the staging can be very costly. It can be extremely expensive. And if you have these huge vacant homes, you really sometimes do need to think about staging a home, and people need to understand where their furniture can be, how the house is situated, where the light comes in, la, la, la. That's super important. But I think even more important is not all of us are selling high-end homes. You can utilize some of these simple staging things for the lower end price points, because I think that when you go into the bathrooms, you go into the kitchen areas, it's important you can have simple things like candles. You can have hand towels. You can have nice soap dispensers. You can put, I had a listing in Huntington Beach a few years back, and I noticed that it needed to be touched up a little bit. There's just little accents that when someone comes into the powder room or they come into the kitchen, it was missing some nice little details.
Yeah.
I went and bought like a country lemonade thing over at, I don't know, I think my wife Jackie went over to World Market and got some really cool stuff to put in the kitchen area. And it's those little things that make a difference, and you don't need to have a huge budget to it, but it creates a competitive advantage. And I think what Kevin was saying about what I think you're listening to a podcast, you're listening to a marketing thing. It's how this is a very competitive market in and of itself, and having a competitive advantage is huge. This could be all it takes to have the seller choose you.
Yep.
Is them understanding that this guy knows, or this gal knows what she's doing. She knows what's going to help get the sale quicker, or it's going to make the house look a little bit sharper. So that's my takeaway, Kevin. I just think staging is a competitive advantage. I think it's something that if we can adapt into our strategy, it can be helpful, and you can stand out from the rest of the pack.
Oh, 100%. And then like you said, when you do buy those little staging items, keep them, lock them away, put them in a box, have them ready for the next time that you need to do staging. And so in my example, the gal that won that listing, she had a whole bunch of stuff that she's been, stockpiling, and had the gear. And then when she comes in and puts her staging items in, if it works, great. If not, then hey, she goes and gets other staging items. Not a big deal. So, but you're showing that seller that you care and you know what's going to make the difference, because a lot of times that does make the difference. Travis, any other takeaways from today's webinar?
I think that the lower end listings are just as important to do the staging and the little repairs and stuff, because when you have potentially first time buyers come into these homes, you want to remove as much doubt from their mind as possible, because they're already probably strapped to get into the market with their down payment and closing costs.
Yeah.
And if they see cracked light switches and little things just start adding up in their head very, very fast. And so, to spend sometimes 50 or $100 just kind of taking care of that kind of those little things to kind of tighten up the home really will go a long way. The seller will appreciate it. Their home will sell faster. They'll get a better price for it.
You'll get a referral.
Yep.
You go on, keep going. So
yep.
All good stuff. It all, builds a little snowball with this, which is exactly what we're trying to do here. So guys, I don't see any questions in the chat, but always remember these webinars are meant to stimulate your thinking, and if you need to go into further detail, just go ahead and go to our Calendly link, calendly.com/Alta Realty Group, super easy, and book an appointment with me. So guys, Bill and Travis, thanks for being on the webinar, and agents, really appreciate you guys taking the time each week to come on these webinars. Like I said, next week we're going to be off, no webinar next week, but we'll be back the following week with an information-packed webinar, and we look forward to seeing you all there. So get out there, make it a great week, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.